Hello and welcome to another video from Writers for Writers at Libertad Communications. I don't know if you've noticed it, but if you write anything and want it published, sooner or later you are going to run into a scam that has been milking authors like cows for years. The scam I'm talking about is the editing and proofreading service industry. If you want to protect your work, if you want to save yourself a ton of time and money, stay with me to the end of this video and I'll explain to you the 3 reasons why today editing and proofreading is usually a scam. Since the birth of the digital age in the 1990s, the legacy publishing industry has lost over 40% of its market share to self-publishers. So far, so good. But at the same time, as literacy rates have increased, ironically, people tend to read less. As it turns out, the man that can read doesn't have any advantage over the man that can't, certainly not in terms of selling books. Today, over a third of the adult population never read a book, and those that do, they only spend minutes a day reading. As the legacy publishing industry, mostly family-run businesses, started to lose serious amounts of money, the first victims to be thrown under the bus were the editing staff. And when we lost them, the world lost another unique skill base. Well, anyone old enough to remember the 1960s will know that over the last 6 decades or so, our civilization has devolved. Many of the trades that we once took for granted have been lost, like tailors, bootmakers and jewelers, and of course, publishers. In the modern world, we may call a company a publisher or someone an editor, but they're not what we think they are. They're not what we imagine them to be. Most modern publishing houses are really just places where useless degrees go to die. And none of that would matter if it were not for the rise of the digital printing technology. Just as the legacy publishing industry died, the self-publishing industry was born. And all of a sudden, there were thousands and thousands of would-be authors all over the world willing to pay money to see their work in print. Very few of whom understood the publishing business and its jargon. And this made them singularly vulnerable to being ripped off. Naturally, human nature being what it is, companies began to circle like so many sharks around a shoal of wounded fish. They quickly began to feed off of these would-be authors by taking advantage of their ignorance, their desire for recognition and their hope. As we will see, most of these publishing companies don't know a comma from their elbow or a full stop from their arse, which brings me to the 3 cankers on the body of what was once a proud publishing industry: jargon, non-editor editors, and the myth of AI.
Post.
Happy boy.
Well, firstly, let's look at jargon. To be honest, in a way, it's not their fault. Most of the people working in the publishing industry are millennials who have inherited terms that they don't understand and that refer to a printing process that no longer actually exists. Once upon a time, these terms were used to describe an organic process of manuscript development, but today these terms are used interchangeably and so have become effectively meaningless. In all of the top 10 editing and proofreading companies, proofreading is the same as line editing, which is the same as structural editing. And why is this a problem? Well, most would-be authors have a vague idea that they should have their work edited before they publish in order to, I don't know, look professional, in order to be a real writer. Well, these publishing companies seem to use these anachronistic terms, these terms left over from a bygone age, in order to intimidate and confuse the feck out of their customers into paying for something that they really don't need at that stage of manuscript development. Then there's secondly the non-editor editors. Well, who are these millennials that I keep talking about, these literary shysters who are milking writers like cows, the non-editor editors? Well, the vast majority hide behind really intimidating qualifications that are absolutely and entirely irrelevant to the process of writing. These non-editor editors have PhDs and degrees in subjects as helpful as physics, geology and philosophy. And here's the thing, even if you've got a PhD in English literature, it has absolutely no bearing on your ability to write or to edit. It doesn't matter that your name is Philomena and you have a PhD in the history of art. If the only thing you ever write a text to your boyfriend, you have no business calling yourself an editor. And if your client is talking about the history of art, fine. You can check their facts in their work, but not their writing. And how do I know that these non-editor editors are not real editors? Well, nearly all of these companies charge a set per word fee, and this is really suspicious. The amount of time it takes to physically edit a manuscript must, if you think about it logically, depend on how many errors it contains and what you're being asked to look for. So there's something going on there, so there's a disconnect. The other clue that you're being ripped off is the fact that human beings cannot read a text for structure and style and correct spelling and grammar at the same time. The brain just doesn't work that way. If you're engrossed in a book, you tend to not notice the misspellings. Your brain just tunes them out. So what's going on? Well, here's a secret that a lot of them won't tell you, but some will admit to. Nearly all of these editing companies use a computer program to edit your work. Some of them, as I said, are proud to say they use AI, and some pretend that they don't, which brings me to the third canker, the abomination, the myth of AI. It's not just the editing and proofreading companies that are ripping you off. Some companies are actually creating programs like Grammarly that can be installed on your computer to edit your work as you write. And they too call these programs AI, artificial intelligence. And as we've said, a lot of these editing farms, these editing and proofreading companies, use systems like Grammarly, and a few of them, to be fair, do actually admit it. So what's the problem with AI? Well, until precisely 10 minutes ago, everyone agreed that the term AI referred to a sentient computer, a self-aware program. It's part of our cultural assumptions. Don't believe me?
Human decisions are removed from strategic defense. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th.
But at some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI.
AI? You mean artificial intelligence?
A singular consciousness that spawned an entire race of machines.
And that is why they use the term AI. They and a lot of other people, like the World Economic Forum, they're counting on you thinking that having Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Smith, or bloody Data from Star Trek to edit your work would be worth paying for. They're counting on you feeling more comfortable being edited by AI than condescending Philomena. But there's a problem. Artificial intelligence only exists in science fiction novels. All we have today, and all we will ever have, is machine learning algorithms, MLA. And there's a problem with MLA. MLA systems like Grammarly only see words as relationships, ones and zeros. They know that the word rose might be a name, a flower, or possibly an action, but they don't know what a rose really is and what it means to you. They've never experienced a rose because they're not bloody alive. Zoe B is a professor of English and she's a genius. She did a great video on Grammarly and an even better one on AI systems like GPT-3. If you're a nerd like me, check them out. You'll really enjoy them. I'll leave a link in the description. And this is why Grammarly and programs like it are useless to writers, whether you use them for yourself or if you pay someone else to put your work through the program. Using systems like Grammarly will actually retard your ability as a writer and make your work soulless, God forbid. So how are we any different? Well, the Writers for Writers approach at Libertad Communications is to go back to basics. We resurrect the old skills and reattach them to the creative process. With us, proofreading is something that's only done after all the editing is complete and the book has been laid out for printing. And it's usually free. A structural edit is usually done by our elite team of beta readers at a fraction of the cost that the Big 10 will charge you. Our structural edit is cheaper than our line edit, but we won't give you a price for the line edit until we calculate how long it will take. We only charge for the time that it takes. If you want to know what these terms really mean, go to our website and read the blogs. Email us and we'll send you a copy of the free guide. We are writers working for other writers. Most of us are highly qualified in other fields, technical fields, academic fields, but that is entirely irrelevant to the process of editing. We aim to be Olympic standard in our writing and our reading because your dreams are our products. No computer can simulate that. If you'd like to know more and would like to discuss your work with us, why not take advantage of our free 15-minute video chat? Well, until next time, hope you enjoyed the video. Be well.
Happy boy. Good morning, folks. Hello, Ruth. Hello, Maisie. Hello, Hildy. How are you? Tell me, is the Lord of the Universe in? Yes, he's in. In a bad humor. Somebody must have stolen